Learn more at lastwordsofjesus.com.
Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
Which coach, like when you were in school or maybe in college even, which coach affected you in a good way or a bad way? We would love your stories, as coaches have such a huge effect. Athletics have such a huge effect on our youth. And so this is a live show. We need your calls. Certainly would love to hear your story of which coach affected you. 866 is the number to call in, 866 348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. If you're digitally gifted, and very wonderfully, actually, we have Joey Yoakley with our local FCA, Federation of Christian Athletes. Is it a federation?
It's Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Fellowship. Oh, I knew that. My brain went to mush right that second. So, and I have heard so many amazing things about you, Joey. I am so excited to have you on the show, as I understand that recently you were in an event here in North Carolina that nearly 90 people or 80 some odd people gave their heart to Christ at a FCA event, Fellowship of Christian Athletes event. Is that right?
Yes, sir. It was our Fields of Faith event in Davie County at Davie County High School back at the beginning of October. We had about 625 students there, and 85 of them gave their lives to Christ for the first time.
Isn't that amazing? And for those of you in Ohio or Virginia today, Davie County is not the biggest county in North Carolina. The county seat of Davie County happens to be Mocksville, North Carolina. So I actually owned a dealership there for years, so that's near and dear to my heart, Joey. And you guys have a huge event coming up, right? Tomorrow night at the Winston-Salem, North Carolina Dash Stadium at 6:30, right?
Yes, sir. We are hosting our annual banquet there at the Dash Stadium in Winston-Salem, and it is at 6:30 tomorrow night. And we are very excited. We have Coach Jerry Moore, the retired coach of Appalachian State football, joining us as our keynote speaker. You may recognize his name and Appalachian State's football name from beating Michigan in the biggest upset of college football history a good little while ago, but he also won 3 national championships and is a Hall of Fame coach and just a Hall of Fame guy. So we're excited to have him.
Yeah, and an amazing Christian guy. Like I've heard him speak, and you know, it is about Jesus, and there's no doubt about it. And you know, I'm just so excited about what God is doing. When you think about that, if there were 80 some odd young folks all coming to Christ there just in one little county in North Carolina, you know, what can we do when we reach out to the young people? And you know, the mentorship of a coach is huge, right?
It for sure is huge. You know, Billy Graham once said that a single coach affects as many people in a year as most people will in a lifetime. And so having coaches who know the Lord and who are willing to boldly stand for him in front of their student athletes is a huge, huge thing. And that's what FCA is about, is encouraging those coaches and encouraging those athletes to be in a growing relationship with Jesus and his church. And that's really what that we could really use in this country, right? Right,
absolutely. And so, you know, if somebody happens to be in this area, right, you know, there's got this wonderful event going on next, actually tomorrow night. I shouldn't say next. It's actually tomorrow, Tuesday night. It's going to be at 6:30. Do you guys still have tables available people could be a sponsor of and that kind of thing, Joey?
Yeah, we do have. We for sure. If you wanted to sponsor a table, you could do that, or if you just want to come as an individual or as a couple, we would absolutely love to have you. We've got some room, and would love to have folks join us.
Yes, and so if they wanted to do that, is there a website? How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, we have our website is yadkinvalleyfca.org. and they could go to that. And if they want to sponsor a table, there's the table sponsorship, or they could get in touch with us on the contact button if they're individuals. The other way is just honestly at this point, since it's tomorrow, they could just give me a call or give me a text. And my number is 336-972-4777. And they could just give me a call or a text, and we'll get them there if they want to be there tomorrow night.
Oh, that's awesome. And so, Joey, what's your personal story? How did you get involved with FCA, and why is it near and dear to your heart?
Well, I grew up as a student athlete just south of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was in FCA as in high school. Went to college to wrestle, and really felt a call in my life towards ministry. And I was a youth pastor for a while and a pastor. But as my kids started to grow up, I got involved in youth sports, and I had an opportunity to coach youth teams and to do devotions with kids. One day I went looking at FCA's website trying to find some devotions, and I realized that there were individual local staff people all over the country with FCA who were ministering to coaches and athletes. And so had lunch with the guy in Winston-Salem, and by the end of our conversation, he said, you should really pray about coming on staff with FCA. And so now 8 years later, I'm the area director in this area, and just loving the opportunity to minister to coaches and athletes.
Oh, absolutely. And so after you took that post, I'm curious, was there a day when all of a sudden you went, oh, God, that's why you have me here? Something that you saw him do there with your ministry, and you thought, man, this is exactly right up my alley.
I don't know if there's a single one day, but maybe I can give you a single one day. I had spent about 2 years investing in one football team, and sitting in coaches' offices and showing up on Fridays to do a devotion with the team before their game, one of our local football teams. And I was sitting in the coach's office one day after I'd given my devotion with the kids, and one of the assistant coaches that I'd been praying for, had no idea if he had a relationship with the Lord or not, said, "Hey, why don't we have a coach's Bible study here?" And in that moment, I was like, yes, why don't we have a coach's Bible study here? So it was an awesome opportunity for me, and real confirmation of the call.
And so your awesome opportunity, if you're in the Winston-Salem area today, tomorrow night, 6:30, Winston-Salem-Stadium. There in Winston-Salem, or again, just go to YadkinValleyFCA.org and get registered. Thanks, Joey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, God bless. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Truth Talk Live, where we hear how you're going to tell us which coach affected your life. Sports are a big deal for especially young guys, maybe young girls as well, and coaches play a huge role in that. And we would love your story. 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. I have my good friend, Dr. Carson, who's up on this. Which coach affected your life, Dr. Carson?
Hey, Robbie. Well, I was out in Amherst County, playing football, and I was a tight end, and we had a coach working with the line, and as things were going, especially that morning practice, a lot of things were going wrong, and a lot of coaches were really using a lot of foul language, and the head coach really was wow, it was some language that was pretty stern and just not good. And I remember distinctly as we were out in our unit working, and Coach Seal just let off some words, and he just stopped. He just stopped there, just pulled us all together and said, just hold on a minute. Just hold on a minute. I got to say something to you. I apologize for using bad language. I teach Sunday school, and I just I should not be using these words, and I'm just going to make a promise to you. I'm not going to be using bad words around you guys. We don't need to use that kind of language, and it really made an impact because I wasn't saved at that time, and I was around a lot of foul language, cursing, and used a lot of foul language. But for a coach to stop and say, I am well, he never said I am a Christian, but basically that's what he conveyed. I'm a Christian. I teach Sunday school, and I shouldn't be using this language. That really impacted me as I thought more about my own walk with the Lord later on. There's a certain way I should be living, and foul language shouldn't be part of it. So that's one of my stories of how Coach impacted my life.
I love that story, because when you think about how many things did coaches tell you over the year, but that one stuck out even though you weren't a Christian.
Yeah.
It's just, like, wow, how many things do you remember that your coach said, when you're sitting there like me, like I had a lot of things. My own story wasn't, it just affected me because of the grace of the moment. That I don't know if you knew this, Dr. Carson, but in the 6th grade, I went from about 5'2" to 6'5". And for those of you who don't know me,
the center of the basketball team.
Right. Well, the challenge of that was 2 challenges. Number one, I had like a 26-inch waist and a 36-inch length in pants.
Oh, gosh.
And so, only weighed about, 135 pounds. So, beanpole would not quite describe what I looked like. And and I had, and I still do have small feet for my height, unlike Stu. But I only wear a size 11 shoes. So I was so uncoordinated. I tripped and I fell and all this stuff. And my mother had to go everywhere to try to find me some pants that would fit. And the only pants that she could find in all of the Michigan area were bright yellow corduroys. They were Farrah bright yellow corduroys. So
you were already tall in the center of the universe, and now with those yellow pants. Great.
Yeah, and if you couldn't hear me coming, you could see me coming. And unfortunately, I got the nickname of Banana Pants.
No,
so
I've never heard that.
So I was the laughingstock of many things, but nonetheless. So the coach, the basketball team, I did not know how to play basketball. I really did not. But he was like, you are my man.
We are going to teach you.
We are going to teach you how to play. And he just stood me under the basketball, under the goal, looking how to rebound or how to, put it back in the basket and those kind of things. And I stood there for hours and hours and hours as people do it. Don't dribble, Robbie. You just put it in the basket. Anyway, I would trip and fall every time I would go because I had such small feet and I had no coordination. So I would trip and fall all over the opposing players until it was not unusual at all for me to foul out in the first half. And this coach was, I can still remember the dejected look I would have on my face as I'd come back to the bench. And this guy, he was undefeated for years and years and years. Like, I think the last 10 years he coached, he never lost a game. And I know why. Because, man, he had such grace. It was like, Robbie, you put your whole heart in that. It's no wonder you're falling down. He said, nobody tries any harder than you do, man. Look at you. Look at where you've been hacked or whatever. He would just always, I will always remember. And it made such an impact on me. That there aren't that many people when you're that size and that age that are speaking good things into your life, and that's why the whole idea of FCA and coaches that are mentors to me means so very much because that coach had such an impact on me. When I really needed to know, I was okay, right?
Yeah. Well, another story you just caused me to think of is when we were in the state championship for baseball, our left fielder misplayed a ball, and it caused the other team to score 2 runs. And this coach of ours, as soon as the inning was over, he ran out toward the left fielder so he could talk to him before he got back to the dugout. And so now where we're at, we can't hear what coach is saying. But we notice Danny shaking his head yes. So Danny comes up at the bottom of the inning, and now he has a chance. There's runners on. He hits this 2-run double.
Wow.
And we end up winning the game, win the state championship. So when we're out there, I said, hey, Danny, what did Coach say? And he said, it was unbelievable when he came out and he said, hey, Danny, you got to forget this now. It was a mistake. We can make next time you'll make a better play. But here's the bottom line. You're going to come up and you're going to get a great chance to redeem yourself. And he said he was so encouraging. And, that's the thing about a coach that can help someone who's had a failure to come back and you flush the failures, and now you move to the next opportunity and you rise to the moment. And these coaches, just the opportunities they have to really shape a young person. Danny never forgot that. I never forgot that.
Oh, who would? I mean, then that's just the point. Like, every young man out there wants to everybody to know they've got what it takes, and they're trying to, become a man and all that stuff. And what an opportunity, to speak, those things in encouraging words, right? Where everybody else in the world is, that's so beautiful. Well, how about you? I know we got your stories going in your mind. You need to call us now. 866.
Yes, they do.
348-7884. 866-348-7884. Remember the FCA banquet if you're in the North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina area. Oh, my goodness. Appalachian State's going to be there tomorrow night, 6:30 at the Dash Stadium. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Truth Talk Live, and today's show is the question, which coach, what's your story about a coach that affected you? We would love, it might have been negative effect, believe me, they have a huge effect on our youth, and we would love your story. You've been hearing Dr. Carson and I reminisce on our days, but I would love to know yours. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. It's so amazing to me, Dr. Carson, that, I played basketball in both 7th and 8th grade. And as you were talking about it, I just recalled that, it was my 8th grade coach that was the amazing one that was undefeated. The 7th grade coach who actually taught me a lot about playing basketball, but he did not have that encouraging spirit. And it's just a huge difference in how you feel when you take the court, when you know the coach has faith in you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's so connected to the idea of grace that it's unbelievable to me that, again, and that how much I love to study Hebrew. But when you look at the word grace, inside of grace is this idea that Jesus has faith in you. Like, he not only are you highly favored, but he knows that you're going to pull this off, and the coaches that had faith in you and the ones that you felt like you were disappointing or whatever the situation may be, and it made a big impact on you, right?
Yeah. When we think about serving the Lord, there is a component. We don't want to let him down. And you learn a lot about that from being a part of a team. And you learn coaches, you don't want to let the coach down who does believe in you. I've only done a small amount of coaching. Had a time with some boys with baseball up here in Lynchburg that I'm here in Lynchburg this week. And one night I was putting my lineup together for baseball, and I had a couple players missing, and so a guy that had been batting seventh, and he was batting seventh because he just couldn't seem to make contact with the baseball.
Right.
And but I had to move him up to batting fifth, and he goes out there that night And his first time at bat, Robbie, he gets a double.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my word. And then the next at bat, he got a single. And the next at bat, he got a double. And I'm like, oh, what has happened to this kid? I had him at 7th. He couldn't do a thing. I've got him at 5th. And look, he is just making it happen. And his dad, it wasn't me, it was his dad. He said, hey, what got into you tonight? He said, when I came in and saw the lineup that I was batting 5th, I'm like, man, Coach, he's put me in a higher position. I can't let him down. Well, I couldn't tell him. The only reason I put him in at 5th is because I didn't have any other players. But it was just a teaching moment for me that these kids, if you convey that you believe in them, the incredible things they can do. And I had a chance one time to be with Howard Hendricks, and he would be what you would call a spiritual coach. And he told the story about how he was preaching one time when he was just starting out in seminary, and a professor came to hear him preach. And he was shocked. Here's this professor at this church where he's preaching. And so he preached, and when it was over, the professor came by and said, Howie, that was one dynamic, powerful sermon. God's got his hand on you. And he went back to his hotel and then would drive back to the school. He said, I couldn't believe that professor believed in me before I believed in myself. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
He said, the professor believed in me before I believed in myself. And that's the beauty, if there's a coach listening right now, when you have that belief in a player, a lot of times they're lacking confidence, and you help them to believe in themselves before they believed in themselves.
That's the story of Gideon, right? I mean, the angel shows up and says, mighty warrior, right? When he's down
God
there.
called him a mighty warrior.
When he was wimping it out at the bottom of the threshing at the wine press, so the Midians wouldn't see the wheat up in the air, and God shows up and he says, hey, you're batting 5th.
and the greeting that the angel gives Mary, highly favorite one, which you just talked about.
Right.
Mary's not walking around going, hey, I'm going to be the mother of Jesus. I'm going to be the mother of the Savior. No. And to be told what was going to happen shocked the daylight to her. But you are highly favored. God believes in you.
And the ultimate, actually, for me, was God himself, right? When his son is getting baptized, he breaks all protocol. He's bursting at the seam. It says, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. And you have that moment where the Holy Spirit is descending, Jesus is coming out of the water, and the big guy is calling out. And he hadn't done anything yet, right? This was the beginning of his ministry. But the coach, is doing that for him. And I just think, what an amazing thing. Well, we got Mike is in Ohio, Doc. We got to hear from Mike. What's going on?
Yes.
Hi. I was a Little League coach, and my son was going to play for a select team here closer to me, and he didn't get to play. And so I said, well, I'm going to be a coach out in Xenia, Ohio, and their rec league. And so I'm a coach out there in Xenia, Ohio, in rec league. And this is my first time coaching, and I'm coaching, and then we go and draft. And all the other coaches are there, and they all know the kids, and I don't know anyone. You know what I mean? And so they're picking all the good players, and I guess I get all the bad players. You know what I mean? Of course. And I'm trying to make this story long and short, but my son's there. I'm coaching with my son, and there's this kid that comes up and says, I've never hit the ball. My mom makes me play, and I'm just here, and you can bat me last. And I said, well, you know what? This year you're going to hit the ball, and you're going to bat 4th. He goes, what?
Oh.
Fourth? Dude, that's gonna be weird, right? And Robbie, I'm telling you, this is a true story. This kid, he couldn't hit the ball. He was scared to death. He backed out of the batter's box. He was afraid of everything. I mean, he was afraid of everything. I put my arm around him. I gave him a hug, and I said, man, you don't have to be afraid. You ain't going to get hurt by the ball. So I got these wiffle balls. And after every practice, I told the mother, I says, I'm going to practice with you every night for another 20 minutes after practice, and we're going to learn how to hit. And I threw the wiffle ball, and I hit him right in the side of his, right in the side. And he goes, I said, did that hurt? He goes, no. I said, that's why we're using these. Then that way you're not scared of the ball. You're going to be able to hit the ball. And I says, now you're just going to throw your hands at the ball and hit it, right? And I kept throwing those wiffle balls, and I got really close to him, and I throwing those wiffle balls. And this kid starts whacking these wiffle balls. I mean, he was really good. And so he was batting last at the beginning of the year, and all of a sudden I put him in the fourth. I put him in the bat, fourth. He's never got a hit all year. And says, hey, I'm going to put you in fourth. Oh, Coach, don't do that. I haven't had a hit yet. I says, well, you're going to hit today. I says, you're going to pretend that it's a wiffle ball out in front of you. He says, okay, Coach, I'm going to do my best. And I said, that's all I want. You know what I mean? And he gets a double. And I mean, the whole place.
Yeah, it erupted. Right. All right.
Oh my gosh, it erupted because he smashed that ball and it went way out in the outfield, went past the outfielder, and he got a double. He stands on second base and he's jumping with his hands in the air, and his mom comes up and gives me a hug in the middle of it and everything. You know what I mean? And it was it was really great, and it is. And I have story after story with that little league baseball team and how I'm able to tell parents it's only a game. This is not, we're here to learn life lessons and we're here to have camaraderie and learn things,
Wow. Well, we got to go to a break, Mike. That is so awesome. What a great story. You had me right on the edge of my seat.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad
Dr. Carson, thank you, guys. We'll be back, but we need your stories. I know this is something that's just big. Oh, man, I got to tell it. 866-348-7884 is the number to call in and share your story. 866-348-7884. Welcome back to True Talk Live. Today's question that we would love your story. I mean, I've sure enjoyed these stories. I hope you have. They are fun. 866, well, I should tell a question first. Which coach affected you? Which coach affected you? The number to call is 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. We want to remind you that this wonderful FCA banquet is coming up tomorrow night. It's at the Winston-Salem Dash arena there, or stadium, as I guess I should say, and it's at 6:30 tomorrow night. So what an opportunity you have. You can go to YadkinValleyFCA.org and get a table if you want, or tickets, or whatever you want to do. That's really an opportunity, right, to provide all sorts of resources for coaches that are point people in the right direction. And Dr. Carson, you're a big part of that because you're on the board, right?
Yes, sir. And we are excited about how God is really working through Joey this year and his team. He's got a great team, and they're doing these Field of Faith events, and lives are being changed. Lives are being changed. God's at work.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, when you see 80 some odd in one event, 80 some odd young people come to Christ. I mean, oh my goodness, what an impact. What an
Now,
impact.
this particular FCA right now have seen 114 students get saved this year. And so when people look for who can I support, what kind of ministries can I be helping that can make a true eternal difference, FCA is one of those ministries you want to be investing in. And I love giving my time, money to it, and because I just know these guys are truly seeking to help point coaches, players to the Lord Jesus Christ, and that's the answer for life.
Boy, I'll tell you what. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then there were a whole bunch of baptisms too, right?
Yes. Now, FCA funnels everyone back to local church. FCA does not do those baptisms, but we funnel them back to local churches. And I'm here at Thomas Road Baptist Church doing some speaking today, and they just had 27 baptisms in the last 2 weeks.
Wow, that's what,
church
yeah.
services that have baptisms, it's just exciting.
Oh, man, it is. It is. I was involved in Nikita Koloff's man camp last week and saw a man come to Christ and another one be baptized and, raised to walk in newness of life. It's unbelievable.
Yep.
But you also want to mention something about Date the Word, right? We got a big event.
Well, I got a question for you.
Okay.
You played basketball. What was your number? What was that jersey number?
33.
33. Well, on the Date the Word app, I have a verse for every jersey number, from 0 all the way up to 99, and number 33. Oh, Matthew 6:33.
All right.
Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And so, for any coach or parent listening, maybe there's a player listening. You want to know, is there a Bible verse for my jersey number? Download the Date the Word app, and under the title, verses for your jersey number. All you got to do is look it up, and it's a great way then of here's a verse that's telling me what I need to be living up to.
Or if you're a parent, right, you could go to the Date the Word website or go to get the Date the Word app and get that verse for your child, right? And encourage them that their number stands for more than just a number. And
the Date the Word app is simply Date the Word.
But since we were talking about baptisms, and I got you, my friend, to be on with me, I got to tell you what I learned this weekend. It just flipped my switch. I was so excited I couldn't believe it. The whole idea of baptism comes from the Jewish mikveh, right? And interestingly, it has always, even in the Jewish culture, represented new life. And I was studying actually the 10 sons of Haman that needed hanging, apparently, because they got hung in the book of Esther. And there's a study on those 10 sons being hung that each of them are spiritual things in our own lives. They're the children of Haman, so to speak, and that we need to hang these characters in our own, repentance and growing in our walk with Christ. And as I was studying that, there was one of them that had to do with the idea of the uncleanness of a woman's menstrual cycle, right? And I found the most beautiful study on that I could imagine, that the idea, and I knew this, but I didn't know it. You knew that they had to give an offering during their monthly cycle, and knew they were unclean for 7 days. And on the 8th day, they would give a turtle dove and a young pigeon and all that stuff. But what I did not realize was that the mikveh, which was when it says, and it actually says in Numbers that they're to wash with water. But what they did when they washed with water, they went down in the mikveh. But see, they went down. See, God, the reason that they were unclean was God was mourning the loss of a life, that egg that didn't make it.
Right, the egg that didn't take.
And so when they come up out of the mikveh, ready to have another cycle and possibly have a child, you see, they're raised to walk in newness of life, and they're celebrating this opportunity that God has given them, to have a baby. I mean, as I saw it, and I realized that what a picture that is of this new life that they saw in those 27 baptisms, or the baptisms that I got to see at Nikita's man camp. I just think that's unbelievably beautiful, and a total misunderstanding on my part of why they were called unclean, and why when you touch a human body that was dead, you would be unclean, because God is mourning the loss of that life.
Mm.
Isn't that cool?
And the baptism pictures the new life. There is new life back here. And we've been brought to new life when we get saved, born again.
Exactly. So I know it's totally off the coach subject, but maybe it's on the coach subject when you think about all those baptisms that are resulting as these coaches speak encouragement, and they have that kind of effect on folks, to be a picture of Christ and really mentor them.
We're hearing lots of reports. Ohio State, they're having baptisms. Students, athletes are getting saved. We've seen it down at Auburn. We're hearing about it at other colleges where God's at work. And it's just something about when people do see that baptism, it reminds them there's something missing in my life. And I know you've had some baptisms at your church, and there's just something exciting about a person who is identifying now, my life is in Christ.
And it's a brand new life. And it was so cool. It was, because we did a river baptism. And when we, I baptized a couple of young guys. And when they came up out of that water, buddy, I mean, it was something to see. It just is something to see. Well, they're all, every single, I now when I'm sitting there thinking about it, one of the gentlemen that got baptized, the look on his face was, again, just absolutely priceless. As you're identifying, with Christ's death through the, going under the water, and then you're coming up out of it, right?
Yes. And then, and as I've baptized people through the years, you always wonder, now that this we always call baptism the first step of obedience, and you just begin to wonder, okay, now how will God use this person for His glory? And He used His Son. And His Son said, I have glorified your name. And when you get saved, that's what you did. Your life is about doing things that bring glory to the Father.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And I think about the idea that mikveh is happening for that lady on the 8th day, right? That's the day that they were supposed, right? And so as Jesus, I always think about Jesus came in on the triumphal entry. Well, 8 days later is when He came up out of the grave, or 8 days after the temple was built. It was, it was cleansed, and of course the young Jewish boys would be circumcised on the 8th day. And just another note, since I got you and I love talking to you, that I was doing a communion service. And actually, as I'm reciting the line, this is a new covenant in my blood, it hit me that for all those that were sitting there that night at the Last Supper, their covenant was with their blood, right? Because it was a covenant of circumcision. So it was their blood that was spilled before, and now Jesus is telling them, look, this covenant's in my blood. Have you ever thought of that?
I haven't. That is good. That is good.
I went, oh yeah, this, and what a significantly huge thing it is, His blood. And again, we'll unpack that for the rest of eternity, of what all His blood can do to obviously give us that new life and to cleanse us from our sin. But to say that it's in His blood is so huge, it's just unbelievable. In remembrance of Him, right? Next time you take communion, you can think about that. And so God just shows me stuff, and I just get excited. And I'd love to share it with you, because
we'll have to do a show as we get closer to Thanksgiving about the Eucharist. And
that'd be good.
Thanks for the precious blood of the Lord.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, thank y'all for listening. And tomorrow, we got Alicia Grimes is going to be on. And so how exciting is that? We thank you so much for listening. Have a great God-filled day. Thank you, Dr. Carson.
Truth Talk.